So it seems that the TERFs have conquered Wikipedia. And I mean, Wikipedia is a massive sort of fortress in the culture war. Whoever controls that controls the dissemination of information to untold millions of people who are too lazy to click the second page on Google, right? So you are hitting a lot of eyeballs with the messaging that you put out. And Wikipedia has its good and bad, right? To be honest with you, right, my article on Wikipedia is actually not terrible. I thought it would be, like, everyone's like, oh my God, is your Wikipedia article bad? It's like, only if you're a progressive would you think that was bad.
They should at least update the picture.
Yeah, they should update the picture. But like, it's not inaccurate, actually. I don't disagree with it. But a lot of people's articles are terrible, right? And weirdly, mine's not one of them. But Wikipedia is a lot of people's first source of information on subjects they are not otherwise well versed in. And it's got its good and bad. Like I said, politically, probably not. You don't want to use it because it is partisan. But when it's for other subjects like science or history, it's actually pretty good. And so you can use it as a good first port of call.
Yeah. Moreover, it just has that credibility, that widespread credibility.
Yeah. And it is, and the thing is, just on the face of it, it's a great idea to have a publicly sourced encyclopedia.
Yeah.
That everyone can use and access. That is a great idea to have, and that's one of the good things about the internet. Right? So I'm an appreciator of Wikipedia, and so I thought we'd talk about the Wikipedia definition of the word woman.
Matter of much controversy.
Apparently so. I mean, this is the modern age. But before we begin, go and read my conservative definition of the word woman, because I think that there's a lot packaged into the word woman. And I've done my best to unpackage it. And I think it's in 4 different tiers. You've got the aesthetic, you've got the normative, you've got the social, and then you've got the essential layers, which all connect to one another and create the concept of woman. And so you can't, in my opinion, separate any one of these things out. And what this does is, if you expand it like this, it shows you the level at which transgenderism is trying to enter into the concept of woman. And it's at the most highest aesthetic, the last level of it, which is a kind of reverse colonization of woman. And so you can see them go, right, we dress like women. Now you need to treat us like women. Now we need to be in women's spaces.
That's a really great analysis.
And now so the final frontier, and you've seen this, I'm sure, is artificial wombs. We want to have an artificial womb, or we want to have, artificial phallus or something like this. And so you can see the reverse colonization of the concept of woman through transgenderism. And I think that this is one of those things, actually, I've done a really good job on.
Woman is a thick concept in every sense of the word.
It is. And it has, but it's also useful just to see how it's interacting. Because if you only have it as a flat concept, you can't see how it's interacting with modern feminist concepts. But actually, we can do that. Anyway, so let's go to Wikipedia's definition of a woman. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my word!
I apparently forgot the link to a picture of the old definition of woman, which was a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman.
Who is anyone who identifies as anyone who identifies?
An insufficient definition because it's self-referential. But as you see, the current definition is a woman is an adult female human.
Controversial.
I can hear the laughter of Posie Parker off in the distance. Yes, the TERFs have apparently won this, right? And literally, prior to adulthood, a human female is referred to as a girl. The plural of woman is sometimes used in certain phrases, such as women's rights, to denote female humans, regardless of age. That's fair. But you can see that it goes on, women inherit a pair of X chromosomes. And so
that's hate speech.
Biologically essentialist definition of what a woman is. And this is the basic building blocks of what the concept of a woman is. Completely true. The TERFs have won this. This, just to solidify just how biologically essential this is, obviously adult and human, not really very controversial things. Female, if we go to that one, female is, of course, rooted directly, and I say female, I mean it is, but the Wikipedia definition of what a female is rooted directly in biology as well. As you can see, an organism's sex is female if it produces ovum, the type of gamete that fuses with a male gamete, blah, blah, blah. It's incredibly, essentially biological. So at least reality is being represented on Wikipedia in this way.
What a treat.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. Small victories, but again, it could be that this was not the case. It could be this was promoting a lie. It was at one point promoting a lie in previous iterations. So it is nice to see that this is the case. But what's interesting about Wikipedia is you can see how a page got to the point that it's at by clicking on the talk thing. So if we go to this next one, this is the person who's been contesting the Wikipedia article on woman. For anyone listening, they're called, quote, a socialist trans girl. Their previous name was Germany, France, UK, Australia, Russia, Latvia. Weird. But they changed that to a socialist trans girl. So
I wonder if they have any particular vested interest in promoting certain definitions of certain words. One wonders.
Well, it does seem that it would be difficult to say that this person doesn't have a bias and, as you say, a vested interest. But if you scroll down, you can see they've got some user boxes at the bottom here.
Yeah.
Previously known as use boxes, this user supports democratic control of the means of production by workers. Just so you're a communist.
Yeah.
This user is a libertarian market socialist. This user is a trans girl.
Definitely the sort of person we want to be trusting with, controlling public information.
Yeah, so I thought we'd just have a look at some of the discussion, actually, on the woman page, just to see how this came about. And now this is very, very long, because of course it had to be a very, very long discussion.
So I'm just reading here. Assume good faith, be polite and avoid personal attacks, be welcoming to newcomers, and seek dispute resolution if needed.
And how
did that go?
Well, no, to be fair, actually, the quality of discussion is pretty good.
Oh, okay.
And personal attacks are fairly low, right? So actually, I have to say, the Wikipedia discussion on the page is actually quite good. It's better than what you'll see on Twitter, for example. So actually, it's pretty good. And so there's it begins with a chap called Helper21. I say a chap, I have no idea. A person called Helper21 who's saying, look, maybe the current Wikipedia article is heavily weighted towards discussing physical characteristics and could be considered trans exclusionary and exclusionary to those born as a woman without these physical parts, like intersex people. In this manner, I think to avoid disputes and hostility, it would be better to remove the short description, using oversimplified descriptions and not being clear, distinct, and specific and precise in regards to sex and gender. Can often lead to trans exclusionary people, TERFs, using definitions as a form of weapon to be hateful and exclusionary. It's like, is this really important to the definition of woman, though? I mean, the very fact that we are discussing this tells us everything about the power of the woke, the intersectional paradigm in public life. Like, sorry, we don't have to consider them at all when talking about women. We need to but apparently they don't feel they have a choice, right? So they say trying to define a woman is not something that everyone can agree to or boil down to a simple or short agreed upon definition. It was in every other time period.
Yeah.
Everywhere in the world, Anyway, so Aussie Wiki Dan says, well, I agree that the introduction should be more clear, that the word is used to refer to gender more than adult human female. One of the citations is 14 years old, and so not the best. Like, the citation could be 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And it would still be correct, right? So anyway, we go further on, and a trans socialist girl chips in. I find this attitude towards gender-sex distinction very frustrating. Well, someone's critiquing them, and they are replying to them, right? So someone says, I find this attitude towards the gender-sex distinction very frustrating. While certain segments of academia define gender different to sex, this is an oblique definition that is not generally accepted by society. And that's true. Most people in society view woman as being a description of a female. As in, you can't separate the concept of woman, the gender identity of woman, from the sex of female. These are concepts that are intrinsically bound up and can't be separated. And so they say there's a tendency to go for people to go gender and sex are different, get over it, as if it's already a settled debate which will get us nowhere. I'm not opposed to an inclusion of a non-naturalist definition of woman in the article, but it must actually be argued for. And so a socialist trans girl says, healthcare services, systems, and software generally make a distinction between sex and gender these days. So it doesn't mean that women aren't biologically female, right? And then they say, additionally, while to my knowledge there are no sizable polls in the sex-gender distinction, polling shows that acceptance of trans people being a different gender from the one they are to be far higher than not. And so she lists a bunch of polls. And then this person replies saying, look, this is basically a series of far left norms that you are imposing here. And that's political advocacy. That's actually not what Wikipedia is for, believe it or not. And they say, look, polls are basically compromised by your social desirability bias. You are a far left activist, which, come on, don't pretend that you're not. Don't pretend that you're not, right? And this is a form of political correctness you're trying to impose on us. And so this person says, well, I mean, and she argues back quite well here, right? A poll is not a self-report study, it's an anonymous survey, so it's far less subject to social desirability bias. You've not provided evidence that it's affected by it. If my ideas are far outside the mainstream, then why are my ideas the ones with the social desirability bias? Well, there's a big conversation with that, isn't there?
Yeah.
That tells you a lot about the elite of society.
What an indictment.
Exactly. The elite of society and how they don't care what the regular people think.
Can I just say very quickly?
Yeah, please.
This is going to be a very hot take, this.
Go on.
But this is all absolutely absurd.
Yes.
And I know that doesn't need saying. I know the viewers of this will know that. Yeah. But it just bears repeating that all of this, when you peel away all the layers, peel away all the sort of, again, the social desirability and all that sort of thing, it's so obviously all just a manifestation of it's
possibly, but I'm not sure we can put that on YouTube. So
okay,
I might have to cut that.
Oh
bit.
Yeah, of course. My apologies.
But the point being, like, you can see there's a distinct political advocacy going on.
Yes.
From someone who is expressly political to change something that is not in line with the, like I said, the mainstream, the majority opinion of society, in order to satisfy the desires of a particular kind of elite. That's what they're admitting here. Like, and so it's like, okay, that's weird that you would just come out and admit this. But this is why I thought this was interesting, right? And so they carry on. And they say, lukewarm beer, they're replying to this chap. And they say, well, I agree, there's no point citing polls, as it's not redundant, not relevant at all then. It's like, okay, but why did you do it? Like, you brought up a bunch of polls. The person said, well, the polls don't matter, do they? Because, everyone could just be wrong on this. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, well, I agree, polls are wrong. Why did you bring it up? Because it's not about arguing in good faith. It's not about actually trying to arrive at truth or anything like that.
No.
It's just about trying to persuade you to do what I want, do what I want, do what I want, constantly.
And it is tricky, this as well, because obviously what we would favor is the definition that is in accordance with reality, right? Women as adult, human, female, and then the various thick layers behind that.
Yeah.
But, this person is treating this as a political space. They're treating it as a political cause, and it is for them. And I tend to believe, I don't know if you're the same as this, but I do tend to think these days that there are no neutral spaces.
That's true.
When it comes to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
The friend-enemy distinction is very much something that's real. And so I think it's kind of tricky to argue, to appeal to neutrality in this sort of thing. Because I think we basically do need to assert, okay, if you want to politicize this, then sure. But we are going to fight fight for our side of this.
Yeah.
We can't just say, because if we act as if we're neutral and they act as if they're political, we lose every time.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the space never felt political because it always, the people debating in it agreed on certain basic presuppositions about reality, right? So when these underlying presuppositions are not being challenged, it's not what we would call that to be a neutral space because there's no one who's trying to essentially overturn the apple cart.
Deconstruct.
Yeah. Exactly. And so in prior eras, it felt neutral to the people engaging it because they all agreed that actually it should be this way in principle. And now we're debating on, like, it literally just being on the table. We're going to debate the position of things on the table. We're not going to debate throwing over the table, right? But this person's like, yeah, but I want to debate throwing over the table. And the fact that you don't want to do that makes this political. It's like, yeah, I guess it does, actually, And so we're going to argue for the establishment of the table that we can then debate on neutrally. Yeah. But you are right that there is no neutral, really, if you allow people with these opinions to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Right. That they prevent that from happening. And really, like in previous eras, they understood that things like education, these were not neutral. These were value transmission.
Yes.
These were things for the transmission of values. The crafting of the character of the people was consciously done by the kind of education that they had. And that was why we were good, actually, it turns out.
Yeah.
And without that, it turns out that we become less good.
That's why Oakeshott says these sorts of people always have an ominous interest in education.
Yes. And in fact, the wholesome people should have the wholesome interest in education for the benefit of the young people who are becoming adults in society, rather than the external interest of whatever political drive it is.
Yeah, some ideology.
Yeah, exactly. Some ideology. But anyway, so a socialist trans girl gets to this bit, and this is the interesting bit, right? As for the definition/criteria, woman is a social construct and social role, and a matter of identity, and there is no real criteria or definition other than identifying as a woman.
Just
that's not true.
Ridiculous.
Right? But that's just not true, right? It's like identifying as a football fan. You can define it as someone who likes football, but when asked how to determine that, it's identifying as a football fan. Okay, well, let's take that for a start, right? If someone says I'm a football fan, but doesn't own a single piece of merchandise, has never been to a single game, has never watched a single game on TV, couldn't name a single player, couldn't even name any of the teams, like me, right?
And
I can't do it. I'm
well.
not a football player, right? I'm not a football fan, right? I could say I identify as a football fan all we want, but there are actually objective criteria that you can use to identify who is actually a football fan. This being the sort of revealed religion of the culture, is in the thing, the essence of the thing, what it is and what it does. You actually can do that, and that's what they're saying can't be done. Well, it's like, no, I'm sorry, it can be done, and the same can be done with woman. We actually have objective criteria that we can use. It is a social construct and a social role, but it is also intrinsically connected to an objective biological reality.
And that's the thing, it can be both. That's the interesting thing. Because I actually do, I don't know if you speak about this in the article, but I think it's Simone de Beauvoir, the one is not born but becomes a woman.
Yes.
I think that is true.
That's true.
That is correct.
Yeah, that is true.
That doesn't mean that
woman is a floating identity.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that anyone can become a woman. That's the distinction.
Yes, yes. Only females can mature into women.
Yes.
And
not all females do.
And
not all females are women. But all women are females.
And it's the same with being a man. You know, men aren't born, they're made. You know, and I agree with this. This is true.
Yeah.
But like you say, it is connected directly, and not all boys become men. Actually,
oh God, yeah.
And it's something we're seeing a lot. But so they carry on saying, look, this is you can't have the definition be based off abiding to said roles and characteristics because of complexities. It's like, sorry, no, we can. And this is the strongest argument that they have, though, is merely that it has to be on self-identification. It's like, look, actually, you don't have to self-identify as a woman for me to be able to identify you as a woman and for society to treat you as a woman.
Yeah.
You know, this is what will happen. But anyway, so they carry on, and the argument goes on for a long, long time.
No doubt.
I'll skip it. But basically, by the end of it, they go, look, I'm not saying there's genuine academic dispute as to what a woman is. I just perused the first half dozen dictionary definitions that came up for women, and they're all the same. There's not really much else we can do here. We're just going to settle it. And so it's like, it was just basically like, nah, it's just now female. Look, the dictionary says so.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point being, there was a massive conflict about this in the behind the scenes in Wikipedia, and the TERF position won.
For now, we can only hope that it remains that way.
Yeah, it could well change in the future, but good for them.
Thank you for watching that segment from the podcast of Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed, why not visit our website, where you can get the podcast live from 1 o'clock on weekdays, in full, uncensored, and for free, as well as, for as little as £5 a month, getting access to all of our premium content and helping us keep the lights on, with series like Josh's eclectic series, Contemplations, where he discusses politics, psychology, and all sorts of other topics, including in this latest episode, with Bo discussing if a country's geography is tied to its prosperity. Interesting stuff. If you'd like to see the rest of the content we're putting out, you can follow Josh on Twitter at JoshFirm, and the rest of us over at LotusEaters_com. Until next time, goodbye.